On this episode of the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast, I carve out a little place in heaven here in my recording closet to discuss the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe vault track, A Place in Heaven. A Place in Heaven was recorded in March of 1986 at Prince's Galpin Boulevard home studio in Chanhassen, Minnesota. The original Prince vocal version was recorded at this time, and then about a month later, in April, Lisa Coleman of The Revolution recorded her lead vocal version. Both versions can be found on the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe released in 2020, and Lisa's vocal version was believed to be the version Prince was going to include on the Dream Factory project before that was abandoned. The track listing has Movie Star segueing into A Place in Heaven seamlessly. I've heard the two songs mixed together as it was likely intended to when the Dream Factory project was still a reality, and it works. It really works. I think it sounds cool mixing or kind of segueing one into the next without any breaks or pauses. And Lisa's vocal version was played backwards for another Dream Factory song that is, it's basically A Place in Heaven spelled backwards. I don't know how to pronounce it, but you've seen it. The Nevaehniecalp-A. So, yeah, however you want to pronounce that. It's A Place in Heaven backwards. And that song was also included in the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe. So there's essentially three versions of this song included on that project. Prince's vocal version, Lisa's vocal version, and a backward version from Lisa's vocals. The Dream Factory project, based on leaked track listings, seemed to have a somewhat cohesive theme of stardom, dreams, higher powers, higher calling, Dream Factory, All My Dreams, Visions. Even the Ballad of Dorothy Parker has kind of a dreamy aspect to it. In a Large Room with No Light, a song I haven't covered yet, can be considered, and along with Power Fantastic, have that sort of larger than life feel to it. Crystal Ball is another one that is very large in scope, very grandiose. So this song is relatively short, and because of the front and backwards vocal versions of the song that exist, it feels like this would have been considered a bookend for the project, for the album. The forward version maybe being early in the track listing and the backwards version being later. I think the Dream Factory project initially was going to be a double album, kind of like Crystal Ball was supposed to be. Or a triple album, I guess that one was supposed to be. So either or, I do believe, this, it gives it a bit of a Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band vibe to it, where the song is essentially twice in the track listing, once as a regular track and once as kind of a reprise. The backward version would have been similar to a reprise in that manner. Also, another brick in the wall from Pink Floyd's The Wall was used similarly as a kind of like a motif for the record, used multiple times throughout the track listing. A very large track listing in that case, a double album as well. So, I think that's really all I have to say at this point about the background behind A Place in Heaven, and probably about time to get into the lyrics. She wants a place in heaven, but she cannot face the truth. She lives on a rope of self-pity. It only requires a noose. Why are the ones so afraid to live, much more afraid to die? It's as easy to imagine laughing when you really hear a cry. and they sound the same. So Prince is singing about a female protagonist. He uses the pronoun she, so definitely imagine this could be a female protagonist, and maybe that's why he wanted Lisa to sing this song. But also then if Lisa was singing it, she would still be referring to somebody else, not herself. It doesn't, I want a place in heaven, but I cannot face the truth. So it's still kind of sung in the third person about a female protagonist, and potentially if this was going to be a concept album, this might have been, an example of that, where there could have been a theme of female protagonist that goes throughout the album, or at least comes in and out. Face the truth line here. She wants a place in heaven, but she cannot face the truth. Maybe meaning she isn't a good person, doesn't belong, or hasn't earned her spot in heaven, potentially. And there's also kind of a feeling of self-pity here. She feels sorry for herself. Maybe what she wants what she cannot have, or feels sorry for her position or her lot in life. The ones who are afraid to live, which could mean this person is reserved, not willing to step up in moments of crisis or need, seem to be the ones who cannot bear the thought of dying. So, they're still holding out, potentially, hope that they can still lead the life that they are wanting to live and lead, and experience the things that maybe they're a bit too afraid to experience. So they're just, again, kind of holding out hope. Like, don't take me now. I haven't done everything that I want to do. I haven't experienced everything that I want to experience. I haven't, had a chance to love in the way I want to love. But at the same time, what will more time do? Will more time be used to achieve the goals that they have for themselves, or will it just be wasted? Just like they've, in theory, wasted their time already. That's kind of like a philosophical question that can't really be answered. It's more of a, just a thought process, just kind of an idea. Something else worth noting for this song, I think, or at least in this verse, is the comment, when it's easy to imagine laughing when you really hear a cry, and they sound the same. So this brings me back, or makes me think of, I should say, the juxtaposition of laughing and crying in this verse is interesting, comparing it to also living and dying. So we got a couple of juxtapositions used in this verse, and it also, again, reminds me of that scene in Purple Rain when Apollonia and the kid are in his bedroom together, and he's playing that backward tape, and she thinks that she's moaning or laughing or having a good time, and then he informs her that she's actually crying and it's being played backwards. And so how similar they can sound when they're manipulated in a way to kind of trick the listener. So I don't know, it just something that popped into my head when I was hearing these lyrics about laughing and crying. I just thought of Purple Rain. So that's the first verse. The chorus is, I want a place in heaven, maybe you're already there. Life's what you make it. Stop whining, baby. Love come to those who care. So now the chorus is mentioning you, not she. It's probably still the same person, just kind of a different way of addressing that protagonist of the song. Now the singer's admonishing this person for expressing self-pity. Stop whining, he says. And life is what you make it is a phrase that reminds me a little bit of Life Can Be So Nice from the, what would have been at the time a recently released Parade album. Just basically saying life is what you make it. Life can be so nice if you're able to enjoy the simple things. You own your own life, and you own your own happiness. And the reference to love here makes me think that he's referring to maybe a heaven on earth. So, talking about a place in heaven and talking about love in the same sentence. So, could it be a comment that being in love and those who pity themselves for not finding it are hard-pressed to find that place in heaven? If you're saying, being love it's a blissful feeling, it can feel like heaven on earth, and if you're self-pitying your position in life and your lack of love, could that make it harder to find that place in heaven? And that's kind of what I'm thinking about a little bit in this verse, or in this chorus, I should say. There must be children in heaven, ones who know nothing from hate. 3-year-old leaders of all colors, I'd feel safer with them in control. 3-year-olds in control. Here I feel like Prince is kind of speaking about or talking about the innocence of children, and how children aren't really born with prejudice, born with hate in their heart. Fans of movies like The Good Son or The Omen might disagree with that, but, generally speaking, if we're not talking about Hollywood-based films or satanic children, sons of Satan, The Bad Seed is another one. Yes, children generally aren't hateful creatures, aren't born to hate. They don't know why so many of us hate each other in this world. And so Prince is talking about the children in heaven who don't know anything from hate. 3-year-old leaders of all colors. Leaders, calling a 3-year-old a leader, and 3-year-olds are in control. Maybe only in heaven. Maybe only in heaven. That's an option. So I think what he's saying is because these children are so innocent and so pure and so, inherently loving, they don't have all of the cynicism that comes with age and adulthood and the prejudices that come with age and adulthood. They would maybe make better leaders than those of us in our middle to late middle ages. I'd feel safer with them in control. So again, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. He would rather have children in control, even though, again, I don't necessarily think that's supposed to be meant literally. They may not have a lot of hate in their hearts, but they also don't have a lot of experience or knowledge that a leader might need. But the sentiment is understood. And then finally, we all want a place in heaven. Sweets of that level are few. Let's not be lazy, there's no room service. It's all up to me and you. Let's not be lazy, there's no room service. It's all up to me and you. Let's not be lazy, he says. Look for love. Do what it takes to find it. Do what it takes to find that place in heaven that we all want. Suites, meaning like rooms in heaven, are few. So he's implying that not everybody belongs in heaven. Not everybody has a place in heaven, deserves a place in heaven. If you're lazy and are not willing to work for your place in heaven, there isn't a place for you. There isn't a suite for you there, I think is what he's trying to say. And using the, no room service, it's all up to me and you, is a kind of a coy way of applying maybe some of his celebrity experience now that he's a celebrity in 1986. He's likely experienced some things like room service and he's likely experienced room service and other luxuries that he's not experienced before, and so he's kind of using that to frame, the thought of being lazy, because again, room service is kind of considered something for people who, I wouldn't say necessarily lazy, or just too busy, or are able to make, to pay for an extravagant luxury I don't have to do this for myself. I can just pay somebody else to do it. I can pay somebody else to bring me food. I can pay somebody else to take my clothes and launder them for me. I can pay somebody else to do mundane activities to free me up to do other things, such as create art, for example. And so he's essentially saying we can't outsource our happiness. We can't pay somebody else to find love for us. We can't pay somebody else to find our way to heaven. We can't pay for that. We can't, although, the way churches are run today, many churches, not all, but the way many churches are run today, it kind of implies like, you're kind of paying your way to get to heaven. The money is supposedly used to maintain the church, but what do you need the church for? To get to heaven, that's the theory. That, if you don't go to church, you're not as likely to get there. Therefore, I have to help pay for it. I have to help maintain this structure, this physical structure that I attend every Sunday to make sure that I get to heaven. So it's kind of a, in a backwards way, paying for a trip to heaven. And that isn't what the intention is. It's supposed to be a gathering place where all can worship and experience community and fellowship together in one location. And the line, "It's all up to me and you," again, just reiterates this whole concept of we're in charge of our own happiness, and we are the ones that will determine whether or not we get to heaven, whether that's on earth or, on another plane of existence in the afterlife. So that is what I have to say about A Place in Heaven. A pretty little song, whether it's the Prince version or the Lisa version, both are enjoyable in their own ways. I would think I'll just read from the book at this time, from the Parade and Sign of the Times Area Studio Sessions book. And there isn't a lot to say about this song, but I'll read what is written. Unlike most recording studios, which are windowless vaults that mask the passing of time, Prince's new home studio allowed the sun to decorate the room with a warm, colorful light. At the Galpin house, we had these beautiful stained-glass windows, reflects Susanna. There were 3 panels, and if you're facing the porch, behind you, there was a silver light that would come up. The east morning sun would bring out the beauty. And then there was the drum room, and in some of the tracking rooms there were windows. One of the byproducts of the almost church-like atmosphere was A Place in Heaven, which was tracked either late the previous day, and this is from an entry dated Saturday, March 15th, 1986. One of the byproducts of the almost church-like atmosphere was A Place in Heaven, which was tracked either late the previous day or during this session. The song was another solo effort, with Prince adding several Fairlight elements, bells, timpani, and harpsichord, piano, and a guide vocal for Lisa. A Place in Heaven was a song he intended for Lisa Coleman to sing, remembered Susan Rogers. I had the impression that it was for a movie of some kind. Having Lisa sing that song could have been something for the female lead in this feature movie that he had in his head. I don't know, but he just did a guide vocal on it. Okay, and then it talks about working on Movie Star, which was the previous episode, because apparently he also did this, or did some work on Movie Star the same day. So, again, not a whole lot on A Place in Heaven. And just like that, I don't have a whole lot to say about the lyrics to A Place in Heaven, or I should say I don't have much more. So I think we'll just make this a short and sweet episode on A Place in Heaven. Thank you for listening. This has been the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics Podcast. I've been your host, Jason Brenninger. Please find the show at pressrewind.net on social media or on your podcast player of choice. And until next time, thank you very much and goodbye.